Hello, hello, hello. Hidden Hermit here. How are you? Welcome to the 9th Astrology and Tarot video, number 9. We're flying through the year at the same rate as the sun. We're talking about Sagittarius today. Everything's red, as you can see. I've got a Sagittarian vibe going on. I've got some red hot cinnamon burning over here, which I'm very fond of. It's rather nice. You're gonna have to take my word for it. This is not smell-o-vision, but yeah, very nice indeed. I've also got some Sagittarian type rocks and stones going on here. Some sodalite, some raw sodalite, and some unraw sodalite. I prefer that. Some labradorite or labradorite, depending on how you feel like you want to pronounce it, and some smoky quartz. And for some reason, I've got it doubled. I got twice the amount. There you go. Here's some Sagittarian dice glyphs. That's Sagittarius for you. Oh, and yeah, okay, so let's get stuck into this, shall we? So we're talking about Sagittarius, the 9th sign of the zodiac, the 3rd fire sign, so it's the mutable fire sign. In the tropical zodiac, it goes, depending on the year, the 22nd of November to the 21st of December. In reality, it's more like the mid-December to mid-January, but we're mostly concerned about the tropical zodiac here. There is the glyph there, and Sagittarius is most famously known as the Archer. Yeah, let's just talk about the constellation, because okay. Now, but first of all, to Sagittarius, I find a bit of a mystery. I find it very odd. I find it kind of all over the place, which is. I don't know why. I don't know why. I was thinking about this, and I was actually wondering whether or not it's because I've not known that many Sagittarians in my life, or that people keep their birthdays quiet. And it's an interesting time of the year to have a birthday, because it's in the run. Everybody's worried about Christmas, aren't they? Everybody's worried about that. And do you know what? I think most Sagittarians are actually fine with that. You know. They're fine with that. So the constellation of Sagittarius is a big one. It's a big constellation. It's sprawling as well, and it's you can't really see it in this card because it's huge. It's massive. And to be honest, I struggle to make out the image of this centaur archer. To be perfectly honest, because it's like I say, it's all over the place. You can make out where the bow's supposed to be going, and the bows are pointing at the heart of Scorpio. Some artistic depictions show. Here's another Sagittarius card, which is quite funky. Yeah, so some artistic depictions show Sagittarius, a centaur, just facing Scorpio with his bow drawn. But I think that the best I can't remember. I can't remember what the actual painting was, but it was actually facing away from Scorpio, but turning around to fire back into the heart of the Scorpion. Let's have a closer look at this dude. And yeah, so you got the bow there. You got the sun very resplendent behind him, looking very fiery. Now, the history of the constellation of Sagittarius is just as mixed up as the zodiac sign itself, to be honest. The theme of centaur, or half man, half beast, is a recurring theme, as is the theme of the bow and arrow. So archery is yeah, it comes up a lot. War and hunting is also something that comes up in a lot of the histories, but it's just so vast, so deep. I'm not going to spend that much time talking about the constellation of Sagittarius. Some of the other things, yeah. Also, what centaur it's been associated with. There's been a lot of debate about with that, and the biggest ones are Astronomicus and Chiron, not to be confused with Chiron, the bit of rock floating around past Saturn. Some other notable differences: in Egypt, it was once a swan or an ibis, but again associated with war and hunting. Interestingly, China had it as tigers and dragons, and yeah, it's just all over the place. You can go and do your own reading, but the classical Hellenistic view of a centaur with a bow and arrow is the one that's stuck, obviously, and that's the one we're going to go with. The interesting thing about that is that the bow and arrow is an important and it's a significant what's the word I'm looking for? Archetype? Yeah, I don't know. It's a symbol. It's a significant symbol to the sign of Sagittarius, as is the idea of half man, half beast. And hopefully we will talk about that in a little more detail. The most important thing about the constellation of Sagittarius, however, is that it looks directly at the middle of our galaxy. The object called Sagittarius A is indeed the star cluster that's right in the middle there, where a black hole reportedly resides. In fact, the evidence is almost overwhelming. But I think that is also quite important. When you're looking at the constellation of Sagittarius, you're looking at the heart of our own galaxy, and it's a very rich star field. There's so much going on. There's nebulas and all sorts of crazy stuff going on there. But I think I can move on from that. So yes, here we go. Sagittarius, as I mentioned, it's the mutable fire sign, so it's a bit more changeable. Unlike Aries, which seems to want to go in the one direction, and Leo, which wants to stay right where it is. Sagittarius is pretty easy going with that. You can go this way, you can go that way. This is indeed a tarot video, and of course, as a fire sign, we are associating it with the suit of wands. Here is a card of the fire glyph. Hurrah! Sagittarius is also associated with the 9th house. And interestingly, unlike some of the other signs and houses, the correspondences are very, very similar. So the 9th house is about destiny, fate, from a spiritual point of view, karma, luck, long distance travel, organised religion, faith belief. Higher learning is something that comes up again and again. Higher learning and institutionalized higher learning, so universities and things like that. There's also a scientific element to the 9th house as well. Philosophy, expansion, adventure, morals, religious leaders, and books and publishing. And yes, you'll find that I'll be repeating myself quite a lot because these themes do come up a lot with Sagittarius. I'm going to get rid of this dude, say goodbye to him. So Sagittarius in the tarot is, and this is where the oddness starts for me. This is where the correspondences, they seem somewhat oblique at times, and they seem somewhat sometimes they don't feel like they match up, but I think deep down on a much deeper level they do. But here's Temperance. And Temperance, it kind of feels like this is the Waite Smith, obviously, and you have this angel here. And the important things to note about this angel is this angel, I would say a genderless angel. It has been mentioned that it's possibly the Archangel Michael, who in Christian and Jewish and Islamic mythologies is like he's like the dude, the boss angel almost. But what's important to note here is he's got 1 foot on the ground and 1 foot in the water. So he's partially grounded, and he is also got in touch with his emotions. This cup is a flowing of energy, and he's balancing it out. You do have the fire glyph in there. You've also got the symbol for the sun on his forehead, which is interesting. So yeah, Sagittarius and Temperance. Again, I'm going to be going backwards and forwards with these ones because, to be honest, I struggle to figure it out in my head. But that's why we're here to learn. So if you're a Sagittarius, if you identify as a Sagittarius, meaning your sun is in the sign of Sagittarius, you have a Sagittarius moon or Sagittarius rising. And before I go any further, I'd like to express a personal opinion, and that is it really annoys me when people say Sag. I'm a Sag. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. It sounds awful. It sounds like something you'd be unfortunate enough to pick up at a local swimming pool. And also you're denying yourself the opportunity to enunciate the word Sagittarius. It's a cracking word. Sagittarius. You can just roll around your mouth. But there, yeah, never mind. I'll move on with my personal opinions. Who am I to have an opinion? Anyway, so Sagittarians, some of your better attributes, some of the things that you may indeed identify with. Sagittarians are noble, and they can be quite refined. Their personalities are very magnetic, and they're bold. They're very free-spirited, aren't they? They don't like being held down, and they're very intelligent and inquiring. they're honest people, I would say. And Sagittarius is known as the most philosophical sign of the zodiac because there's that big thinking there. Sagittarians like to ponder life's big questions. And there's also a poetic vein to Sagittarius. Yeah, there is a kind of a wistful air about you Sagittarians. They for experience. They're excitable. They're witty, ambitious. They're good with abstractions. They're good with things that, you know, lines of thought that are beyond the norm, if you like. Free thinking, kind of casual. They're very open-minded, optimistic. Some would consider them to be lucky. That's kind of objective, to be honest. They're spontaneous. They're fearless, just like this angel here. Again, there's a potential link with either higher education or higher religion. You know, the kind of doctrines and the erudition behind these kind of formal veins of thought, if you like. Sagittarians also very versatile because of that mutable fire energy. They're very observant and yeah. Again, I haven't met that many Sagittarians, or at least unknown to me. I don't know why that is. If you're in a bad mood, Sagittarius, if you got out of the bed on the wrong side, you may very well recognise some of these other traits. So you don't like to be restrained, you don't like to be held down by the norm, and you can react quite poorly to that if somebody tries to restrain you, if you like. They can aim too high, they can have unrealistic expectations, which can become a bit impractical. Sagittarians like to be disorganised. I say liked, but they can be disorganised because they're easily distracted, and thus a bit of procrastination comes through. They can expend and waste time, energy, and funnily money. They can become dogmatic and fanatical. This idea of higher learning, this idea of it, you know, jumping in with the real thinky stuff about stuff can actually become. You can take a Sagittarian over, and they can become preachy with that as well. Because of their honesty, they can be a little bit tactless at times. They don't know how to lie, which of course is a good thing, but at the same time, sometimes kind words are needed. And yeah, because they're a bit all over the place, their workmanship can be shoddy, especially if they're doing menial tasks that they don't want to do, and they don't like asking for help. So, but you know, on the if you're looking at the big picture, they're hardly completely negative traits. Anyway, let's move on. So yes, here we go. This is Sagittarius. This is the Temperance card. We've just looked at the Waitsmith there, and here is the top deck. And again, I'm going to spend as little time on this as possible because the symbolism in this card is absolutely bonkers. It's absolutely bonkers. It goes really, really deep. Now, the opposite sign to Sagittarius is Gemini, so here is the Lovers, and there are so many links between these two cards. The only one I'm going to point out to you right at the moment is if you look at the lion in the bottom left-hand corner, in the Lovers, it's red, and in Temperance, or Art, as Crowley named it, it's white. And if you look in the bottom right, the eagles have changed colour as well. And that's the big theme from the Golden Dawn and the Kabbalistic understanding of tarot key number 14, Art, or as we know it otherwise, Temperance. It's all about the alchemical change, the fact that you can change one thing to another. You know, with whatever, a bit of persistence perhaps, but all sorts of things. There are other things that are linked up in here. There's an Orphic egg at the bottom. This one's been opened up, and this, I believe, is Diana, the goddess of the hunt, who, yeah, I mean, she also had a bow and arrow, but the Sagittarian symbolism in the Art card of the top deck is a bit, well, it's not obvious, is it? It's not obvious. And some of the other confusing things that come through is, you know, you've got these moon symbolisms, you've got a sun symbolism, you've got all sorts of crazy things going on, and you're kind of wondering, well, what it's all about. However, you know, Temperance, as we understand it, is all about balance. It's all about keeping things in check. And the balance could very much be achieved by the amount of higher thought that you're putting into the situation, which is that Sagittarian energy, I would suppose. Here is the Night Sun. And again, you have a theme of the angel in the top deck. It's widely regarded to be Diana, the goddess of the hunt. So you got that Hellenistic attribute there. But in the rest of the cards that I've got here, it's an angel. Very sexless, very gender neutral in the Waite-Smith. Definitely feminine in the Night Sun. It's a very, very cool card here, and you got that same idea of pouring liquids into different vessels to equal things out, if you like. Yes, I don't know how important it is that this angel is looking straight at you as well while she's doing her work. Kind of that very vast amount of focus that can be achieved when you keep things in balance, I would imagine. My featured deck for Sagittarius is this marvelous deck. I actually got it today. I'm very, very happy about this. This is Benabel Wen's Spirit Keeper Tarot, and key number 14 is the Angel. So you're going with that idea of it's this angel figure that's keeping things in balance. There's the weird thing about Sagittarius. Some of the things that you would probably associate with the Sagittarian vibe, that the idea of fire, the idea of mutable fire, the idea of movement as well. Sagittarius is about long distance travel, but it's not so obvious in the Temperance card, which is a bit strange if you ask me. But yep, here's the Spirit Keeper Tarot, the Angel. Very similar to the Waite-Smith, very similar to the Night Sun in many ways as well. Interesting, you do have this, you've got the glyphs for all the mutable signs on there, which I believe is quite important. You've also got the Latin, the Latin, how would I put it, affirmation of the element of vitriol, the idea that you can mix things together and to create something new. And again, I'm not going to go into the alchemical thing because it's really deep. It's really deep and mind-boggling. But just be aware of that, I think. Okay, so that's Sagittarius with Temperance. We're going to keep that there for the moment. The planetary ruler of Sagittarius is Jupiter, and there is Jupiter. It's a cracking picture. You actually got Jupiter up there. You got the god face, if you like, of the Roman king of the gods. Of course, in Greece he was called Zeus. Big lightning bolt there. Jupiter is a cracking planet. Really, here's another Jupiter card. In astrological terms, in astronomical terms, Jupiter's amazing. It's the biggest planet in our solar system, as if you didn't already know that. It probably, beside the sun, exerts more of a gravitational influence on the solar system than any other body. Definitely more so than Saturn, because it's much further out. But if Jupiter was to blink out of existence, I can't imagine how long Earth would last. I really wouldn't, or indeed the things living on it. So Jupiter in tarot is signified by the Wheel of Fortune. And again, this is another strange correspondence. When you look at it at face value, when you just pick it out, if you like, I mean, you take, for example, Mars and the Tower, that makes sense, doesn't it? And the Sun and the Sun, that clearly makes sense as well. But you have to really think about how the Wheel of Fortune is corresponding to Jupiter, I believe. So in the tarot, the Wheel of Fortune traditionally suggests a change of luck and a change of good luck. And I was wondering to myself, why is it good luck that traditionally when it comes up? And I kind of figure it's because you go for a tarot reading because you're confused about something. You're confused and you want to know something, and the Wheel of Fortune comes and it's like, there's good luck coming your way. It's unfashionable to think that you can have a tarot reading when things are going your way, which is quite frankly silly, really. You can tarot can help you in all areas of your life. So anyway, here's the Wheel of Fortune card, Jupiter. Lots of cool things going on in here. You have the word tarot spelled out on this 8-spoked wheel. You also have the Hebrew letters spelling out the tetragrammaton. A lot of people, especially when they associate with the Waite-Smith, seem to suggest that the 8-spoked wheel is kind of in line with the Sabbats and the Esbats, or the equinoxes and the cross-quarter days. which I'm absolutely fine with because it does signify that it's a year, if you like. Also important in the Wheel of Fortune, you have the fixed signs demonstrated: Taurus, Leo, Aquarius, and Scorpio. Scorpio can sometimes be shown as a serpent or an eagle, and well, you're just gonna have to take my word on it. And you have these creatures just floating around the wheel here. It's constantly spinning. It's constantly changing. And the Wheel of Fortune doesn't just mean good luck. I mean, sure, if you were to reverse it, you might think, oh, that means bad luck. But it's all about a change of fortunes. A change, I think, in general. Expansion is another thing, which is definitely a word attributed and associated with the planet of Jupiter. Jupiter is all about expansion and benevolence as well. Jupiter is a very benevolent entity, if you like. So it was nice to think that the Wheel of Fortune is too. I'm going to keep this guy down there for the moment. In fact, you can go away. Let's look at some more Wheel of Fortune cards. Here is the top deck. It's similar but different. There's a lot of crazy, interesting things going on here. You still got a Sphinx going on. You still got a Sphinx right at the top there. I believe this is supposed to be Typhon, because that's Typhon in the Waite Smith. Typhon is the monster that almost consumed the world, and lots of Greek heroes and gods talk about it all the time. You've got this crazy monkey guy on here as well, who's climbing up almost the wrong way, which is interesting. Again, the symbology in the top deck and most of the major arcana is just crazy big. So I'm going to move on from that, but you get the same idea. You've got some nice purpley Jupiter colours going in there. You've also got this triangle at the back. Again, I think this is an alchemical, not the alchemical symbol for fire. It could be, because Jupiter is associated with fire sometimes, but also that the whole salt, sulfur, the coagulation idea. I'm going to move on before I slip up over myself. Here's the Night Sun Wheel of Fortune, and this is very interesting. I'm hoping it'll just focus out a little bit there. You've got the I Ching demonstrated back there. So the idea of fate and destiny is repeated in the Night Sun Wheel of Fortune. It's an interesting image. You got less creatures going around it, and it's more of a mechanical kind of vibe going on here. Oh, that's terrible. There you go. That's better. A lot of black and white as well. A lot of this or that. It's almost dealing with absolutes, kind of. Yay! Here is the Spirit Keeper, the Wheel of Life. The Spirit Keeper, the Sphinx, Destiny Turning. You got two Sphinx on this one, and you got all sorts of crazy good symbology going in there. You got the zodiac. You got phases of the moon. You have alchemical elements as well as the Hebrew letters. All sorts of great stuff going on there. There's Mercury, water, salt, sulfur. So very, very similar. The four orbs mean something, but I've forgotten. But yeah, so this is Jupiter. Jupiter is the Wheel of Fortune, and like I say, he's going to stay there because he's going to come in handy when we look at the pip cards associated with Sagittarius. And obviously it's the mutable fire sign, so we're at the tail end of the suit of wands. So we're looking at the 8, 9 and 10. Here is the 8 of wands. The 8 of wands is informed by Mercury in Sagittarius. Now, interestingly, Mercury in traditional astrology is actually in its detriment in Sagittarius. So we need to think about that when we think about the 8 of wands. I am going to put Jupiter over there. So here is Sagittarius. Here is Mercury. This is how we get to the 8 of wands. The Magician, the Angel, and then this idea of swiftness, this idea of speed, this idea of going somewhere, if you like. Mercury, again, symbolized by the Magician, the guy that has the tools to do what he needs to do, but he's ill-dignified in Sagittarius, so I may want to turn him upside down, reverse him, give him that mischievous bent and this idea of movement. So instead of balancing out things, we're going. It's this go. I mean, just look at this. It's a very you do get a sense of movement, of swiftness, of abundant energy, if you like. This idea that Things are definitely going into a certain direction, and very quickly as well, which generally feels like a good thing. You know, it's quite exciting. It's quite urgent as well. There's a sense of urgency about the Eight of Wands, and it's a very action orientated card, I would imagine. There's no standing still when the Eight of Wands comes up. And when it comes out in readings, I have found that whatever the situation, whatever the vibe you're going for in the reading, the Eight of Wands kind of tells you that there will be movement, that there is going to be some sort of thing that's going to push the situation forward. Let's look at the top deck. Very different in pictorial terms, but you still get that energy of movement. Now, the rainbow is significant as well, because I'm paraphrasing Crowley here when he said something like that. The point of Sagittarius is to fire the arrow into the rainbow. Yeah, I don't know what that means either, but there you go. So we've got Mercury in Sagittarius. You've got this idea of buzzing. Yeah, this idea of energy, fizzling energy. Which is, it's kind of obvious, you know. If you're an intuitive reader and you see this card or you see this card, you're going to get the vibe of move. Very colourful card. It's a fun card in the top deck. Night Sun goes for a very different kind of vibe. You've got some sort of it's interesting to note whether this person is ascending or descending this, but you again you get that sense of movement. You get the sense of going from A to B, and A to B is a very different world, if you like. It's different to where you were, so you're going to see some sort of major change, if you like. So yes, here is the Eight of Wands in the Night Sun. Very evocative. I like to think that this lady is walking up, although she's just about to run out of room. And she may be thinking about, well, where have I just come from? What the hell is going on? Okay, so the Spirit Keeper Tarot, it actually gives it a person, which is interesting. Well, I suppose the Night Sun did as well. But the Sagittarian idea, which is missing from Temperance, of the Archer is perfectly epitomized as the sharpshooter in the Spirit Keeper, the Eight of Scepters. And the other thing that's quite interesting about this card is this person is shooting upwards. It's so you're definitely getting an elevation, really, aren't you? See that Jupiter idea of luck changing for the better. I don't know. It's interesting. I haven't spent much time with the Spirit Keeper. I'm gonna. Don't you worry. I'm going to. It's because it's amazing. But yeah, this idea that the movement is going to almost a better place. Now, the interesting thing that I like to say about the Eight of Wands that you need to be very mindful of is this energy is so energetic that you cannot sustain it. You will fizzle out at some point. It's more of a short, sharp burst or a very energetic burst to get you somewhere far quickly, but you can't sustain it. Nobody can sustain that sort of energy. So Mercury in Sagittarius is the Eight of Wands. Let's move on to the Nine. Now these cards are all very interesting, I think, which again compounds my befuddlement with the Sagittarian attributes, if you like. So here is the Nine of Wands. The Nine of Wands is a card of strength. So the Nine of Wands is informed by the Moon in Sagittarius, which again is just, it just feels weird. It just feels very, very strange. The Moon, like Temperance, has a very changeable nature. Temperance is trying to keep things into balance, whereas the Moon is consistently waning, is consistently changing. So again, you've got a very strange sort of conflict of energies going on here. There is nothing to suggest that the Moon isn't happy in Sagittarius. Of course, if you do have a Sagittarian Moon, then you'll find that the attributes to the Sun placements, or indeed any major placements, do feel the same. You know, the idea of being quite magnetic and bold and thoughtful and pondering the big questions, etc., etc. But when the Moon meets Temperance, then things become a little more static, and this guy is very much at rest. And the interesting thing, he's been very protective. He's protecting what he's got here, and he's been through the wars as well. I mean, look at this guy. He's got a bandage on his head. He seems certainly ruffled, and I like to think that the Nine of Wands is quite defensive in a good way. He's got the strength. He's been through the wars, and now he's at rest. This idea of balancing it out, and he has had the strength to get through his trials and ordeals, and he can totally take that on. He's ready for you. You know, he's ready for you, and he has the courage. He has the strength. He's been successful in his well, it's not so much conquest, because I believe it is he's defended himself. He's defended himself, his ideals. This is a suit of wands, so he's defended his desires, his passions, and you know that he's looking up as well. He's looking to that higher energy, which I think is also very, very profound. I'm a big fan of the Nine of Wands. It kind of feels like an absolution, or an affirmation, if you like, that you've been on the right path and you've done the right thing. Good for you, Nine of Wands. If we look at the top one, again, you've got this kind of solid nature here. What's interesting is you've got the moon down here and you've got the sun at the top. From a Kabbalistic point of view, it's the link between Tiphereth and Yesod, which is quite a direct, quite a fundamental link as well. You do get this, again, this idea of barring the way. It's a very solid structure that's not going to fall down. That's not going to be compromised anytime soon. So yeah, pretty strength indeed is the card, the Golden Dawn attribution, the Lord of Strength. And if the Nine of Wands comes up in a reading, then you can kind of feel rest assured that you've had the strength, and you will have the strength to deal with whatever it is that you need to deal with. Unusually, the Night Sun mirrors this, I believe. So this guy has got his back to you, but he's putting his structure up, and this structure again is very, very solid. And he's clearly got pride. He's clearly got the strength in which to complete his task, and nines are about completion as well. So it's almost as if job's done. The trials have been very, very hard, and you've been through a lot of stuff, but you did it. Well done. Well done, Nine of Wands. Oh, Spirit Keeper. So this is an interesting one, the Malays. So the idea of the moon is very prominent in the Nine of Scepters in the Spirit Keeper Tarot, but it is very, very similar. I mean, even the actual body language here is almost identical. And the Malays, I think, kind of gives you the idea that things are very much at rest now. And it's a stubborn energy as well. Again, that defensive energy, but not only is it stubborn, but you're not going to break it down. It's too strong. It's too strong if you wanted to break it down, I would have thought. That's the way I see it. Let me just show you the back of those. Oh, isn't that cool? Yeah. And finally, the 10. Oh, no, before that. So the court card attribution for the 8 and the 9. Let's find an 8. Is the Knight of Wands, which again opens up all sorts of other questions, especially when things. I mean, the Knight of Wands is a fiery guy. Look at him. He wants to do whatever it is he wants to do. So the Knight of Wands is associated with the 8 and the 9 of Wands. Sorry, yes, the Knight of Wands, 8 and 9 of Wands here. And this guy, he's so fiery. He needs to calm down. He's like, dude, just stop a minute. He's got that passion. He's got that desire. He really wants them to move forward. As the Lord of Flame and Lightning, I believe, is the hermetic attribute, if you want, and he's very active, and when he's in a good mood, is generous as well, fierce, sudden, impetuous. Lots of travel and excitement going on there, which again is geared into the Sagittarian energy. If, however, he's in a bad mood, he can be very cruel. He can be very, very cruel, almost brutal, I would say. And it's because it's a knight, it would suggest some sort of delay as well, because the horse cannot run upside down. I don't know, maybe they can. I've not known a horse to do that. But yeah, the court card attributes, they kind of fit in a way. I mean, the Knight of Wands is at rest when is moving when it's in the 8, and it's at rest once it gets to the 9. But it's got that strength, if you like. Oh, look at that, I'm showing off my piles. Here's another Knight of Wands from the Night Sun, being very fiery. And yes, I showed you the top one first because I love it. It's a cracking card. Cracking. So moving on to the 10 of wands here. So this is the last decan, 20 to 30 degrees Sagittarius. It's indeed the last, in many ways, astrologically, it's the last fire card in the whole of the astrological year, because there are no fire signs in winter. So yeah, here is the 10 of wands. I'm a big fan of this card. Now, we've got that. So yes, here we go. It's Saturn in Sagittarius. So when Saturn and Jupiter meet, when Saturn and Jupiter meet, the things get a bit tricky, if you ask me. Just out of note, interestingly, the very similar Jupiter and the world, or the world and Saturn versus Jupiter and the Wheel and Fortune, because you've got the fixed signs in the corner there. You've got a lot more movement with Jupiter and a lot more solidity with Saturn, which is interesting. But yes, so Saturn in Sagittarius. So you've got that oppressive, disciplined, mature thing coming down onto the balance, if you like. And we'll just move directly on with the top one. So this is the Lord of Oppression. So, and it really does identify with the Saturn influence, with the Sagittarian vibe. Again, I did mention that Sagittarians don't like order, don't like being held down, if you like, and that's exactly what's happening to this guy. So there is an oppressive nature definitely about the 10 of wands, but I think there is very much a reason for it, because while that seems negative, that Saturn's ploughing down on that free spirit energy, that there is again that idea that the 10 has come to completion. And I should probably mention now that there is also an earthy element, because it's the last decan of Sagittarius and the mutable sign. We're moving on to Capricorn next, so the court card ruler. And again, I'm showing you the top deck because I love this card, it's awesome. The court card ruler is the Queen of Pentacles, the Queen of Discs. So you've got that earthy element coming in there. If I was to put that there, and if I was to, yeah, so you've got that element. However, it is the 10, so in the Night Sun you're showing this solidity. You're showing that you've come from a place of strength, and there is a solid idea there behind it. All is not as bad as what the oppression card in Tot says. In the Spirit Keeper, it's called the Burdened One. Okay, now what I find really interesting about this is you've got these two hands holding it at the bottom, these two divine hands holding it at the top. And I don't know, are the divine hands helping them, or is it a little bit more of a struggle? I don't know. It all depends on where it comes out in reading, I suppose. Because for me, the 10 of wands, I call it the just a little bit further. I mean, look at this guy. He whatever he's done, he's got a lot of it. And he's on a quest. I believe that this is his destination. And yes, it feels like a burden now. It feels really... he feels oppressed, of course, but he's so close to his goal. He's so close to his goal, and once he gets there, he's got a whole bunch of sticks. It's amazing, you know. I'm pretty sure the people here are waiting for at least 9 wands, or these 9 poles. So he's doing a great service to the community for his efforts, for his for the burden that he bears. And you just got to go that little bit further, mate, and you'll be there. Some interesting cards with Sagittarius. Looking at them all in a little more detail really hasn't cleared it up for me. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to continue to be bemused by the Sagittarian energy. I think that juxtaposition of Jupiter, that abundance, and the growth with the idea of temperance is the one that kind of puts me off kilter a little bit. However, that doesn't mean that, you know, you can't have that nature, you can't have these conflicting natures, you can't keep those natures in balance, because, well, why not, eh? We're only human, I suppose. Okay, in the meantime, that's it for the fire signs in the astrological year. Thank you very much for joining me. I am the Hidden Hermit. Catch you next time for Capricorn.